What makes a great brand? Monte Nevado has gained a lot of experience and expertise to obtain slice after slice, year after year, time after time, a marvelous array of aromas, flavors, and textures which have earned them, among others, the award for Best 100% Iberico acorn-fed ham in Spain. This video reveals the secrets of the production of a Monte Nevado, the knowledge accrued from 4 generations of master ham artisans. It may seem quite routine, but organizing and scheduling the production of cured ham is no simple task. In order to achieve a delicious Iberico product in 4 years, we must envisage it now, because tomorrow we will achieve only what we have anticipated today.
Scheduling allows us to ensure, among other things, that we have sufficient time for each phase of production, so that each ham comes out at its moment of perfection.
The next step consists of choosing the most appropriate animals, which are the foundation of everything. This is an organizational forecasting task involving the careful selection of the specimens to be raised.
The experts at Monte Nevado decide on the breed, origin, characteristics, and the weight, which may vary greatly according to the type of ham to be cured.
In the case of Serrano ham, for example, the age and fat cover are critical elements. In order to cure them over an extended period of time and obtain the best aroma, the ideal specimen is mature with a high fat content. In the case of Ibericos, the when and where are also important. The when, because the specimen should fall within the appropriate age criteria in order to make the most of the Montanera season, which takes place from October through March. And the where, because selecting the farmland for the Montanera season requires a keen insight and understanding of the fields according to the mast or fruit volume of the acorn trees, the climate, the rainfalls, the temperatures. After the selection process, the third and equally important step is the receiving process. Because each ham is unique, each one is individually evaluated and analyzed by the master ham artisans at Monte Nevado one by one. Immediately upon arrival, the size, structure, characteristics, and other features of each piece are reviewed. In this first phase, the pieces are classified according to type, weight size, fat content, and general aspect. If any piece fails to meet the specifications, it is rejected. Although we have completed the first classification, the ham must be prepared before it can continue to the curing process. This is the fourth phase, the shaping and trimming. It is the fourth phase, and quite a sight to behold. Let's have a look. The aim is to facilitate the homogeneity of each piece during the drying process, as well as the eventual carving done by hand. This is the well-known V-shaped Serrano cut. Here, the Monte Nevado experts are looking at the proportions and the best shape suited for each ham and looking to ensure there are no cracks or creases in the lean meat. With only a few swift cuts, these specialists skillfully separate all of the skin. It is a practice which has not changed much. For more than 120 years, the same process has been used in Monte Nevado. Once they are ready, each piece is tagged with a traceability label which provides the unique history of each ham. Once the trimming of the ham is complete, the piece moves to the fifth phase, the salting. This is a key stage because it is here where the meat preservation is ensured. At Monte Nevado, very low quantities of salt are used, which requires a longer curing process for their hams. This is what yields better sensory qualities, greater nuances, and flavors to each cured ham. Prior to the salting, each piece is massaged in order to hollow out the muscles, allowing the salt to penetrate more easily and eliminate any remaining blood vessels. Each ham piece is rubbed with fine natural salt, bringing out the natural juices of the meat and creating a dry brine on the surface. During the central season phase, the ham is completely covered with sea salt and remains in the curing chambers for several days. The chambers maintain temperatures between 0 and 2 degrees Celsius, protecting the interior of the piece, which still contains raw meat, with a high level of relative humidity that protects the salt from drying out as it is spread out. Everything is done without preservatives or artificial coloring. The master ham artisans oversee this process to ensure the optimal amount of salt, relying on their experience, since this optimal amount is not the same for an Iberico as it is for a Serrano or for the Manuelica ham. This process results in a small reduction in weight, given that the ham, although it retains the salt, eliminates a significant amount of water by osmosis. Once the optimal level of salting is reached, the salt is removed from each ham by air. Then it is rinsed, molded, and left to drain. This is Phase 6. After removing the ham from the salt, any remaining residue must be removed. In order to protect the environment and prevent the salt from going down the drain, Monte Nevado uses wind tunnels to gather the salt. Once the heavy outer layer of the surface salt has been removed, the remaining residue is rinsed off with warm water baths. The ham is shaped back into its original form prior to the salt application. The hams are taken into a refrigerated room in order to eliminate any water remaining on the surface. The water drops evaporate over a period of approximately 10 days. During the drainage, the ham acquires a firmer texture due to the salt penetration of the meat and loss of humidity. Since the ham is now a bit more malleable, it is a good time to shape the ham once again to create a more adequate appearance. Each ham is shaped individually. It is not simply aesthetic, since a nice rounded shape allows for a more uniform drying process with no narrow areas, which could dry out excessively. This allows the Monte Nevado ham artisans to prepare longer curing processes and achieve a greater development of aromas and nuances in each piece. We have seen exactly 6 phases. Now it's time to rest in the drying room. Because one of the keys of a good ham is that it rests and cures in the Monte Nevado drying chambers. In this phase, the environment, temperature, and humidity are monitored. This allows us to recreate at any time of the year the traditionally optimal curing conditions. It doesn't matter when it goes in. For the ham, it is always the same time of year. It begins with winter temperatures of about 3 degrees Celsius, which is slowly increased with controlled ventilation to obtain an even distribution of salt and a slow elimination of the water. This allows Monte Nevado to initiate the curing process and to have hams available at any time of the year with a similar curing process. This is how they can guarantee the same level of quality for each piece. From the moment it enters the drying chamber, the ham, like a good wine, begins to age. It is the curing process that begins to create that taste we love so much. To arrive at this stage, the ham has passed through 7 steps. Those remaining are a careful succession of curing and classification. Why so much classification? Because each piece is unique and must be treated as such. This task requires a good set of hands and a good set of eyes. By palpating the ham, we can see how it is evolving. We see it in its consistency, its texture, its exterior aspect, its color. Here, a layer of lard is applied by hand to each ham one by one. The correct amount for each area, to cover cracks or creases, blood vessel openings, and to help ensure an even curing process. This is my favorite phase. It's the 8th and most flavor-enriching phase for the ham. Here is where we finally perceive the aroma. We are in a natural cellar surrounded by smells that whet your appetite. The hams are curing with the natural air flowing through the windows. The Monte Nevado cellars are equipped with windows that open and close automatically, creating a natural ventilation depending on the temperature, the wind, the rain, and the outside ambient humidity. All of these factors influence the organoleptic characteristics of the ham. The climate of the region where the ham is cured is critical. The Monte Nevado drying chambers are located in unique surroundings, allowing for a natural aging process and natural microclimates, one near the Guatemala mountain range, another in the town of Guijuelo, and the other in the Camaros mountain range. Each of these locations allows us to take full advantage of the natural environmental conditions. Monte Nevado is obsessed with maintaining the ham in optimal conditions at all times. Their priority is to obtain this with open windows and natural conditions. However, if the weather is not agreeable, the windows are closed and the air conditioning system takes over. A Serrano ham can remain in the cellar up to 2 years, an acorn-fed Iberico up to 5. During that time, the piece dehydrates and sweats, allowing the biochemical processes to strengthen the aromas and the texture to reach its optimal point. Proteins lose their natural structure due to the effects of the salt and the drying process. They become exposed to the natural enzymes of the meat, which partially breaks them down into the amino acids and peptides responsible for the characteristic slightly sweet and umami taste of curing. The fats partially hydrolyze, producing small fatty acids, which in turn react with other components to produce a great variety of sapid substances which together characterize our cured ham. Monte Nevado is obsessed with ensuring their ham is cured until its moment of perfection, but each piece is unique, with variations in the quantity of coverage of fat, its distribution and characteristics according to its genetics and feeding. The shape and pH of the meat also varies. That's why Monte Nevado has its own system. After a minimum 3 years curing period, the master ham artisans review the hams one by one every 3 months, carefully palpating each piece to ensure the texture of the meat below the fat layer. If it has not yet reached its optimal curing point in texture, they go over the possible cracks in the drier parts with another coat of lard, returning the ham to the cellar until it reaches its peak. This process is repeated in some cases up to 5 years until the ham reaches its moment of perfection. When the curing and the texture have reached their optimal point, then and only then will they test the ham by piercing it with a thin spike. This is an organoleptic test which has not been performed yet to avoid damaging the piece. It is done at 5 different points and will definitively conclude that the ham has reached its moment of perfection. After this last control point, the ham is outfitted almost like a prize. The seal is hung and will identify it from this moment on. A ham can leave with different formats: bone-in, deboned, sliced. Only hams that have finalized their curing process can enter the deboning hole. The first step is, of course, to control the age, weight, and shrinkage of the piece and determine whether it meets the standards and requirements of the market for which it is destined and has been deboned. For example, 1 of every 4 hams sold in the USA is from Monte Nevado. Each one must comply with the corresponding requirements, which is precisely what this step controls. Deboning a ham is one of the most spectacular processes you can witness. It requires a tremendous mastery to debone and prepare a ham in just a few minutes. The Monte Nevado artisans have more than enough experience to prepare a ham in any format and packaging. They have the experience of over 120 years producing and exporting to more than 35 countries. The deboned hams have to pass through one last step: packaging. Additionally, a number of the deboned hams from Monte Nevado are sliced and packaged for distribution on the shelves of some of the best establishments in the world. Hams can be machine-sliced or hand-carved. When machine-sliced, the technology is applied to gently caress the ham as much as possible while it is being sliced. Hand-carved produces much more artisanal slices. The subsequent packaging uses materials which preserve the original flavor and guarantee that the slices are ready for consumption. Monte Nevado, awarded Best Iberico Ham in Spain.